Hello, and welcome back to my small part of the universe. My name is Hailstone. I apologize for my absence. Things have been rather busy, moving, etc. Now, without further ado, today we will be revisiting a topic I have briefly talked about before. The Krolers, a true mystery of this lonely Jovian moon, a species that plays host to a rather unique parasite that also makes its home in humans, and perhaps is the only example of possible devolved aliens that built the ruins. Though new information has come to light since I have last touched upon this subject. Large variants of crawlers called broodmothers have begun showing up in frequently used submarine passages. What might have been fairly clear before has become twisted and knotted, and new threads must be unraveled. Biology of the crawler. Crawlers could be roughly called the uncanny mermaids of Europa, though uncanny would be too weak of a word to use, as one would have to be far past inebriated to consider these as such. Crawlers sit commonly at a range of 6 to 10 feet long, with a body covered in a mostly grimy brownish scale, and odd spined ridges that run along both the top and bottom of the crawler's body. Often the skin of the crawler seems to be splotched with yellow and green stains, similar to that of the giant spineling, which these are probably some form of European equivalent to algae. The long, slender body of the crawler allows it to easily sail through the deep waters of Europa, propelled by 3 large fins. One on what could be called the tail, with the other 2 placed on the end of 2 long, lanky arms that the crawler can use to drag itself, albeit clumsily, across dry surfaces, or inside submarines. Something disturbing about these fins, though, is they almost seem to resemble something akin to fingers, with webbing stretching between them. I wouldn't recommend looking at them too closely unless you want shivers during your sleep. The head of the crawler is quite an imposing piece of anatomy, and one you wouldn't want to see looking inward at you through a window. The crawler has a total of 6 eyes, comprising of 2 different sets of 3 on each side of its head. There does seem to be something of an extra eye behind the 3rd in the set, though due to its location and absence of an overall eye hole in the skull, it's more than likely that this is some form of ear than some form of vestigial eye. Within the broad head of the crawler sits a terrifying jaw. The bottom jaw contains long, thin teeth meant to hold on to any potential prey, while the large, flat teeth in the upper jaw cut away and shear. Needless to say, crawlers are voracious carnivores, not passing up any chance to savagely tear away at fresh flesh to fill their gullets. This even extends to members of their own species and will waste no time, even near hostile elements, to cannibalize their own dead. Much like mud raptors and threshers, crawlers often make their nests in caves, protecting small groups of eggs and their young. Now, recently a new creature has appeared on this side of Europa, named the crawler broodmother. While it is well known that crawlers can get larger than their most commonly documented size, the broodmother is in a gargantuan class of its own compared to normal crawlers. The broodmother is nearly half the size of a standard dugong, with a specimen measuring anywhere from 25 feet to 30 feet long. Most of its features are reflected in that of the standard crawler, aside from a few specific things. For one, its enlarged fins and the lack of a fin tip on the tail. Along with that, the head of the mother now sports 5 crown-like protrusions that give off a rather royal-esque appearance. The underside of this large crawler has also seen a overhaul of sorts. As well, on the midsection of the creature, a large belly sack has descended, and its use is honestly quite strange. As per the name of the broodmother, this crawler type does indeed hold eggs, though not fertilized ones, and will, if need be, use them to attack a perceived threat. Though predation and eggs are not fully understood if there is such an application for it. following the descended belly up appear to be a pair of further descended sacs, though despite the countless jokes and jests that submarine crews have been making since encountering these creatures, I believe these sacs play a key role in the reproduction of the crawlers, either as a possible location to store fertilization material from a male crawler, or possibly being something akin to the earth anglerfish, where two male crawlers have latched onto and fused with the female, acting as fertilization banks, so to speak. Though to see a species use its literal unborn young as an offensive measure is unnerving, though there are a few interesting implications now that the existence of the broodmother is known, especially in regards to the alien ruins. But before we move on to that, we need to address the possible reproduction cycles of the crawlers from the animalistic side. Considering the prominence and the size of the broodmother, I am inclined to think that crawlers may be an all-male species, aside from a few scattered females that are responsible for the procreation of crawler populations. Almost leading to a type of ant colony, but one that is far more shattered, and one where the queen mostly lays undefended eggs, and one where the queen lays mostly undefended, save for a few nearby crawlers. I theorize that while cooperation between the broodmother and male crawlers may be next to non-existent, I do think male crawlers will seek out a broodmother in search of unfertilized eggs that the broodmother seems so ready to throw away in defense, and will gather and fertilize these eggs and then retreat into a cave system to establish a safe haven for the young, and then leave the broodmother to her own devices once more. Now, regarding the ancient crawlers, to give them a more sophisticated edge and to differentiate them from their current plausible descendants, so henceforth when talking about the builders of the ruins, we will refer to them as the Krolers. Now, understand, this theory hangs on the prediction of crawlers being the Krolers' descendants, and any assumptions about their culture and ways are only extrapolations from what the few tools, ruins, and architectures have been left behind by them. Anatomy of the Krolers. Due to the tunnels and tools in the alien ruins, I believe the Krolers used to be more upright in appearance and lacked the webbing on their forearms, or were at least capable of retracting it, allowing their fingers to use more complicated tools and to manipulate objects in their environment. As upon examination of the crawler's fins, they almost appear to have joints to some extent, or at least once did long ago. The eyes of the crawler would have possibly been camera-type eyes in two different sets of three, and would be much like that of cephalopods on Earth. And these views are reinforced by the fact that, while not as noticeable on the standard crawler, a broodmother has at least three noticeable camera-type eyes with a red iris and an orange pupil. The lower body of the crawler would be relatively unchanged, with perhaps only a more pronounced tail than the crawlers and broodmothers have, acting as their main source of locomotion underwater. The head of the crawler may have set up top the body much like that of a human, but able to slide back with relative ease when travel through the tunnels and corridors was required. The culture of the Krolers. I believe the Krolers were once a very intricate and very proud race. The architecture of the ruins, the artifacts, and their tools attest to this. The ruins, while sadly left to the annals of time, have shown barely any weathering or long-term decay, aside from perhaps damage and remnants from human researchers who dared to get close to such places. These ruins have retained a level of pristine nature like they were just built, though we now understand this as unknown advanced alien nanotechnology working actively on the structure's upkeep. The alien structures are decorated to a level that would rival that or outdo many ancient civilizations on Earth. Long lines bent and marked by sharp tips, often encompassing three small square-like symbols that are missing a line. The large pillars that make up the exterior are chiseled, with smooth combed lines with an intricate capstone placed where the pillars begin and end. Many ruins contain small vaults that are often guarded by puzzles that seem only to exist to tease any who wish to enter. Others hold insanely advanced technology, from defensive Tesla coils to generators that affect the local gravity wells and will draw in whatever lays near or dares to pass by. Perhaps the most striking of the facilities in the alien structures are that of the mass incubation chambers that lay dormant. While a scant few can be found active, they only contain trace amounts of DNA from local known fauna, and there are many others that simply lay sealed up and dormant within the alien ruins, almost making us question why are there so many and what were they really used for? The only signs of where, if any, within the ruins are the local flora that have somehow managed to take root within, and the occasional broken guardian pod. The societal structure of the Krolers. I believe the Krolers either had some form of matriarchal culture, or at least placed some form of high value on the ancestral form of the broodmother. As if there is truth to the high crawler male to low female ratio, it would in part explain the vast amount of incubation pods to facilitate mayhaps a singular or more broodmothers assigned to a colony. Though what could be said here is that there is indeed some form of high value that would have most likely been put on the broodmother's reproduction in some form. Aside from the topic of the broodmothers, it is obvious to me that the Krolers were a culture that highly respected artisans and craftsmen, as looking at any one Kroler artifact, one could see the careful craft, work, and design that went into each individual piece, with even the alien pistol and ancient weapon boasting complex and immaculate designs that serve no other purpose than the care of those who made them. The alien artifacts, the Nasanov, Sky, etc. also bear strange markings, even down to the mere ornaments and trinkets that are used to navigate the alien ruins and operate technology, also hold on to erroneous esoteric designs and markings. To say the Krolers were advanced in scientific knowledge would be an understatement. Just the fact that they have nanotech capable of maintaining the ruins long after they have left is astounding. I believe they also used this nanotech in most of their crafting as well, able to make and construct devices out of the most innocuous of materials, seemingly only doing so for the sake of in of itself. In contrast to the overwhelming presence of artisans and craftsmen in the Krolers' culture, any form of hostility seems to be non-existent, as the only real armaments found in the ruins are arguably a super welder and a seemingly underwhelming and benign alien pistol that's something almost more of a novelty than an effective weapon. Though regarding the guardians of the ruins, their armaments seem almost more defensive and for the purpose of removal and purging an area, almost like that of a janitor. With that being said, either the Krolers had such a mastery over their environment and technology that the hostile fauna could have never posed a decent threat to them, or perhaps they might have been more naturally vicious, even more so than the crawlers we know today, and having weapons simply wasn't needed. Ultimately, I surmise that the civilization that built the alien ruins was one that highly valued its artisans and craftsmen, one that perhaps centered on the few broodmothers that were assigned to each colony. Though, how in all their advanced scientific knowledge did they simply disappear? How could beings that seem to be masters of their environment, or simply feel the need for no weapons, simply up and leave? Well, perhaps that is an answer we will never have. Perhaps their hubris got the better of them, their environment finally adapting for a certain parasite to quickly overtake and topple a great civilization that didn't even see it as a threat. Or perhaps they simply just did vanish while trying to alter the forces or laws of the universe they shouldn't have been exploring. Thank you for listening to another one of my videos. I hope you appreciate the new art and everything else has gone into this video. It's been a very tumultuous holiday season, among other things, and I apologize if the audio is any different. I feel like I may be a little out of practice. So with that said, please have a great and forthcoming week.